let's go and let's talk about hashbang, which is a term that I did not make up, but it's kind of fun to say out loud. Hashbang. Or it's also often called shebang. And I'm not making these up, that's actually what they're called. So open your gen files again. And at the very top line, oops, we're going to put a hash and a bang, or a hash and exclamation point. And then you're going to say /bin/bash. And that there can be a space there or not a space there, up to you. So what is this part up here? This first line is going to be read by bash, which is going to say, here's the thing that you need to interpret this file, right? So in this particular case, we're saying this is a shell script, so use bash to interpret this shell script. And the reason why this is interesting is because, let's say this was a Python file. You could actually say, like, this is a Python file, please interpret this as a Python file. And then you wouldn't have to use Python to invoke it. You could just say, hey, bash, run this file. I don't know how to invoke it. And then bash, using this shebang at the top, would say, I use Python to run this file. Does that make sense, right? So it's kind of giving a clue to bash, here's how you run this file. So in this case, we're saying to bash, use bash to interpret this. Now, why is this interesting? So I save this, I'm going to quit out of it. And let's move gen files to gen files, but without the .sh at the end. Okay? So now if you look in here, it has no file extension, gen files. And then I'm going to say chmod plus x on that gen files. Okay? So now if you look in here, you can see that it's a green, which in my ls colors means that it's invocable. Or if you look at it with the permissions, you can see here that it has write permissions, or sorry, these x permissions for everyone. Now what I can say is /gen files, and it still works, which is pretty cool, because now it's an executable file that, thanks to that shebang, it knows how to run that file. So notice that I'm not using source, I'm not using dot, I'm not using bash. I'm just saying run this file, and it figures out how to do that from the shebang, right? So to kind of prove my point here, we can actually do this, like we can define it as a different interpreter besides bash. So let's like write a really quick node one. So I'm going to say first which node to find out where the path to the node is, because you have to get a fully qualified path. So snap bin node, that's where my node is. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to say vi node test with no file extension. I'm going to give it a shebang of snap bin node, and then I'm just going to say console.log. This is running from Node.js. Okay? I'm going to right quit that, and then I'm going to say chmod plus x node test, and I'm going to say /node test, and you can say this is running from Node.js. So it actually loaded up Node.js, ran it, and then yeah, it worked from there. So you can actually do that with any program. You can kind of say, hey, go use this to run this file. That's what the point of this shebang. So if I left that line out, it'd be like, I don't know what any of this is. I don't know how to run this, and so it wouldn't work. Does that make sense? Cool. So that's the point of the hashbang, shebang, whatever you want to call it. It's a good idea if you're writing bash scripts to just always put bin bash at the top there, because that's how that's going to work. And like the other part that's really nice about using shebangs like this is like you can write a bash script, and then you can share that bash script with like your friend, and your friend could be using ZSH, they could be using fish. But you can kind of guarantee that it's going to work the way that you anticipate, because even if you're running it from fish shell or from PowerShell or something like that, it's going to go out and find the correct bash to run that, and then it's going to work the way that you anticipate it, without them having to like rewrite your entire script for their shell, if that makes sense.